with this idea of what's going to happen to us later in the future. It's important to understand what happens to you after you die. You know, the superstitions about life after death are sometimes real, crazy. And so we have to find out, is there life after death? Is there not life after death? Is there reincarnation? What's going to happen? Sometimes it's just passing the buck to say, well, I'll wait and see what happens after I die. Because sometimes that's a bit too late. Now, fortunately, you don't have to do that. Now, there is ways and means of finding out for yourself. And one of those ways and means is actually finding out through meditation. If there is something which goes on after death, what actually is it? When you understand what this thing we call the mind is, you know, the heart of things, you know, what's really driving you. In my book, Mindfulness, Buddhism and Beyond, I gave the simile of the emperor with the 5 pieces of clothing on. It's a powerful simile which I only usually teach during retreats. Imagine there's an emperor, and this emperor is a very, very, very powerful being. And, you know, it affects you what this emperor does. But this emperor is clothed. He's got boots, or it's got boots, you don't know if it's a he or she, it's got boots which cover its feet and go right up to its thighs. It's got trousers which cover the top of its boots and go halfway up its waist. It's got a jacket which covers the top of its trousers, go to the elbows and right up to the neck. And it's got these gloves which cover all the hands and go halfway up the arm. And lastly, it's got a helmet. And this helmet just covers the whole of the face and halfway down the, overlaps the tunic. So the 5 pieces of clothing completely cover this emperor. So much so you don't know who this emperor is. Whether it's male or female, whether it's old or young, whether it's African, Caucasian, Chinese or what. And this is like the mind. This mind, this emperor within you, is covered with the 5 senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching. And that's why sometimes we don't know what this mind actually is. In the Buddhist way, we want to try and unclothe the emperor. Take off these 5 senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching, to get to this 6th sense, the mind. Always the 6th sense was called the mind in Buddhism. From the very earliest of times, there's always 6 senses. And as mentioned in other talks, even in ancient Greek philosophy there was always 6 senses as well. If you read Aristotle, always the 6 senses, the mind was there as well. And Aristotle called the mind the common sense because it was common to all the other senses. What you see, what you hear, smell, taste, touch, the mind also knows. That's why it was Aristotle. He was the one who coined the term common sense. And somehow, in 2,000 years of history in the West, we've not only lost our common sense, we've also lost our mind. We've only got 5 senses left now. And that's a big reason for some of the problems we have. We want to find out what this mind actually is, because if something is going to last after death, it's not the 5 senses or the body. We all know the body's not going to last. So, what is this mind? We have to take off the 5 senses. And that's what the job of meditation is. You sit still, close your eyes so you don't see, you make yourself so still you don't hear, you don't smell, taste, even your body disappears. People who get into those deep meditations so they just know what the mind is. When you know what it is, then you have an understanding of what happens to you after you die. And this is no longer superstition, this is direct personal experience. One of the first things which happens when you get into this deep meditation, you see this beautiful light which we call nimitta. If you want to find out more about that, there's a whole book I wrote about this, Mindfulness, Buddhism and Beyond, available in the library, $25. Special offer this weekend, $24.99. But this is actually, you see this beautiful light. For those of you who've had out-of-the-body experiences, or heard other people having out-of-the-body experiences, or seeing on the TV, what do people do when they die? They go towards the light. That's exactly the same light which you see in meditation when you get to that stage. The stage we call it nimitta. It's this beautiful light. I've said in many retreats, that when you experience this stage, you are practicing dying. You're learning what it's like. Because that light usually only comes up and is strong when the seeing has disappeared, when you can't hear anything, you can't feel your body. The five senses have disappeared. You've unclothed the emperor, the mind. You see what it is for the first time. It appears as a light so often to people. It's not a light, but that's just how we interpret it. It's a pure mind object. You're seeing the mind, understanding it. The great thing with this is that you know from that time, from that moment on, and you should know, it's pretty clear to you, you've got the evidence, that when your body dies, I mean real death, when you cark it, when you call the funeral directors, when the body dies, this is exactly what happens. Five senses are stopped, body's not working anymore. Going towards that light, you're with the mind. That mind is what survives the death. Later on, when you investigate that mind, for those of you who have read the books, that mind is not a solid thing. It just keeps on changing, just like this body keeps on changing. So it's not an entity, but a process. When you understand that, you understand just what happens after death. And it's very interesting, because when you first see that nimitta, that beautiful light in your meditation, sometimes it's not nice. It's a little bit dirty, it's not bright and powerful. When people see this, they ask me, what's going on? I say, because you are not pure, you're a bit dirty. What have you been thinking the last few hours? We're not sort of being critical here. This is just, you're seeing your mind as it actually is. Not as you want it to be. Denial and wishful thinking have got no place here. You're seeing what you've been doing. And this is why, in my experience as a teacher, when people I've known for a long time, they are truly good people. They really are virtuous people. They volunteered for the Buddhist Society of West Australia Committee. They've been generous, they've been keeping their 5 precepts, they've been faithful to their partners, they've sort of been kind, they haven't been backbiting, they haven't